Please take a seat. Kia ora and welcome everyone to this meeting of the Hutt City Council on the 6th of September. Just to go through some quick housekeeping rules, please take a note of the emergency procedures which are on the screen. If you do have your mobile phone, if you could please make sure it is switched to silent mode. And a reminder for members and those members of the public to make sure the microphone is on in front of you when you are speaking to make sure everyone can hear you and those online can hear as well. We'll go to our opening karakia. Please feel free to join me. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, e hiaki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora. Thank you, everyone. Before we go into our agenda, I'd just like to acknowledge, of course, last week we were saddened to hear of the passing of Kine Tūhetia po te tau te whirowhiro. He was a strong advocate and leader not only for Māori but for all. His steadfast commitment to the kingitanga movement, to te ao Māori and the notion of kotahitanga will leave a lasting legacy. We recognise the deep connection between Witako Ngā Tata, Te Atiawa, and the kingitanga movement, a bond symbolised by the creation of Nuku Tiwatiwa, which is of course housed in the Douse, just across the road. If you could all join me in standing for a moment of silence. Ma te atu he titi kura, aramai ano he titi kura. When a tautara in our realm falls, another rises from the soil. And in that vein, I would like to acknowledge the newly appointed monarch, Te Are Kianui, Queenie, Ngā Wai Hono e Te Po. Please take a seat. Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving through to item 2, which is apologies. We have Councillor Briggs, who is attending via Zoom, and Councillor Shaw, who is attending via Zoom as well. So acknowledging both of them are online, but we don't have any other apologies, I believe. Yeah, great. Okay. So I will now move to public comment. So just for all of those who wish to speak, we do have 3 minutes, and that includes any time for questions, but we do also have our iwi partners here as well, who obviously can take a bit more time as well, according to our standing orders. So first up, we have Vicky Hollowell, and is Liz here? Liz is online, fantastic, and Liz Mellish, and Tikarangi as well. Welcome. And Richard. Sorry, guys. Excellent. I'll pass it over to you.
He mahi nui kia koutou e te whānau. Ko Waio, ko Vicky Hollywell Takuingoa. I'm the General Manager of the Wellington Tents Trust Palmerston North Māori Reserve Trust, and from the Ahu Whenua Trust, Mana Whenua. The Ahu Whenua Trust originated in 1839 with the welcoming of the New Zealand Company on the beach of Pitoone. We are an a trust that looks after our whenua, that looks after our people. And so today we just want to acknowledge the council and the strong relationship we have with you through our takahiri. Through that takahiri, we as mana whenua are able to speak to you, to tell you how we feel about things, to put our voice forward for matters that concern us. And so we have that ability to do that with you. And I acknowledge the strong partnership we have with council, with this council particularly. With that said, we believe that other voices, other Māori voices should be heard, and so we advocate and support Māori wards. I'm going to just hand over the rākau to Tikaranga to outline the reasons why we support that, and then come back to me on, do we talk about Pita One now as well? Okay, kei te pai. Aye. We'll do that after.
Kia ora tātou. So my name is Te Karanga o Te Tui Marino, however I go by TK because I understand it's a bit of a mouthful, ka pai. I'm the Environmental Liaison Officer for Hikoikoi Management, and I work alongside Richard and Vicky here as well. On the issue of Māori wards, firstly I'd like to acknowledge the ridiculous situation that central government has put you all in with the introduction of the bill to restore binding polls and the establishment of Māori wards. The bill proposes to restore provisions providing for the community to demand a poll on council regarding Māori wards. Now, there is no such trigger for polls regarding other decisions around wards and constituencies, and as such, the restoration of polls reimposes a higher procedural standard on one representation arrangement more than others. Te Tiriti o Waitangi and its principles speak to the idea of partnership between government and Māori. Establishing strong partnerships with mana whenua has been critical in ensuring that Lower Hutt lives and breathes the principle of partnership in its decision-making processes. We have enjoyed a strong partnership with the council and have appreciated their willingness to have mana whenua at the table, not just in the councillor space, but also through the takaihiri agreements, which Vicky mentioned earlier, and the establishment of Te Kāhui Mana Whenua, which both myself and Richard are a part of, which provides really their foundation for a partnership informed by Te Tiriti and its principles. The proposition from central government that binding polls be restored significantly reduces the chances of council meeting its obligation under Te Tiriti and undermines the strides we've already taken together as mana whenua and the council. The decision to establish Māori wards by Lower Hutt City Council will demonstrate council's commitment to the principles of equity and representation over the immediate political climate. As Rahui Papa stated at the Koro Neihana, politicians come and go, but partnership with Māori is forever. Currently, we have a good representation of Māori in the council, and we have had the privilege of working with you over many years. However, there is unfortunately no guarantee that any of the councillors that do whakapapa Māori will be retained in the next election. The establishment of a Māori ward provides the opportunity for at least one Māori voice to be heard on council. Māori ward councillors work for all the community, and they do this by applying a te ao Māori perspective and bringing their mātauranga Māori into the day-to-day operations of the council. Lower Hutt and indeed Aotearoa New Zealand have a unique opportunity to showcase to the world how a successful, equitable and positive bicultural agreement can flourish at the local governance level for the benefit of all of its residents. We urge council to uphold the decision to establish a Māori ward and follow suit of many other councils in this country who have decided that working with their treaty partners is critical to the success of their respective districts and regions. Kia ora.
Kia ora Tikaranga. So with that said, we want to move on to the Pita One Pet One situation. So as the Ahu Whenua Trust, you know that we're the advocates and the driving force behind that name change. Liz, I just want to acknowledge Lizzie up there in the black up there. You can't see her, but Liz Mellish, who drove that, and so therefore you know that we support that. It is a historical name that has been misspelt, and so for the future generations of our mokopuna, let's get that right. And so I'm going to again hand the rākau over to Tikaranga.
Kia ora no tātou. So as Vicky mentioned, the Ahu Whenua Trust have supported this name change and really driven it with the support of the other mana whenua entities in this region. And it's really about restoring mana to the name of this place. Now, we understand that there was an error made in the 1800s around the misspelling of the name Pita One to Petone. However, we are now in the 21st century and we have an opportunity to make things right. So I think we'd be remiss to miss that. It's respectful to the language, to Te Reo Māori, one of the official languages of Aotearoa, and it's also very important to mana whenua to have this corrected to restore that mana. The name Petone itself has no real meaning and therefore carries no substance or value from our view. The name Pita One, with a narrative behind it, provides a much more strong foundation for the reasoning for calling this place Pita One. We've got to protect our history on behalf of our mokopuna and to ensure we don't make the same mistakes that we have made in the past. So although it may seem like a small thing, for us as Māori, as mana whenua, as te Aotearoa, it's paramount that we get these things correct, so we ensure that in the future mistakes like these are not made, and that both Māori and non-Māori can thrive in our shared home. Kia ora.
Thank you. Is there any pātai? Sure. Anything from Liz? Any comment from you before we go to questions?
Oh, kia ora koutou. Firstly, thank you for allowing me to come in by Zoom. I appreciate that very much. Currently on having a little holiday actually, but able to get through via Zoom, which is wonderful. And Campbell, I so appreciated the respect paid, to regarding King Tuheitia and supporting our new Queen, which we're very excited about. That's a wonderful beacon of hope for the future, but particularly from a wahine Māori perspective. So that's highly appreciated. And it's really within the spirit of that both of these matters that are before the council today are discussed, and hopefully you can find your way to stand tall on these two matters, which on their own are small, may be considered small, but in truth are huge and important for this country and important for the democracy. And when I look at our very troubled world, I think we are the shining light of how bicultural democracy can work and work to give everyone equity in their lives. And really, that's all I have to say. But I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has a question.
Any pātai questions? No questions? Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Kia ora. Okay, next we have thank you. Next we have Anaru Ryle.
Ka papaki ngā tai kia kingi tū hei te pōta tau te whirowhiro te tuawhitu. E moi ana ki tōna maunga tapu a taupiri, haere haere o ki hoki ai. O te rā ki tō tātou nei kuini hou, a kuini te araki nui ngā waihono i te pō. Noho ana ki tō ahurewa tapu, no o matua tūpuna, te rārangi ariki, hei kuini, hei kuini, hei kuini. Tēnā tātou katoa, ko anaru tūnoho rātoku ingoa, he uri ahau no raukawa ki whare puhunga, no Ngāti Raukawa te au ki te tonga. Kia ora everybody, it's a privilege and an honour today to sit in front of you as a resident of Wainuiomata and as a community organiser in our hapori of Te Awakairangi ki tai. I'm proud to have my family, my whānau here today, both me and my brother, who is sitting behind me. We're educated in Te Reo Māori immersion. We attended Petone Central School in an immersion unit, which was set up by members of my whānau and many whānau from the Petone community. And there's some former parents who are also sitting here behind me this afternoon. As parents, me and my wife Gemma continue that legacy. And sitting next to me today is my eldest daughter, Zoe Te Paki o Matariki, 16 years old. She attended Te Kura Kaupapa o Te Ara Whānui and she now attends the wharekura at Wainuiomata High School. And this hamama next to me, ko tohu kai tū whakaririka tōna ingoa. He's 8 months. He attends the Upoko Aurunga Pohanga Reo in Wainuiomata, and he was named after my grandfather, Tohukai, who moved from Waikato to Pitoone and got a job at the Odlands timber mill. But when he moved here, he felt the need to change his name to John. So, kei te ora tonu tōna ingoa, mo ake, ake, ake. This is why a Māori councillor is so important. To represent my tamariki, to represent whānau, tamariki, mokopuna, who are from this world, who are from Te Ao Māori, who are confident in who they are, who are proud to be Māori, are embracing their reo, embracing their tikanga, and embracing their culture. It's also important in terms of our obligations to te tiriti o Waitangi. Tino rangatiratanga, oritetanga, within a kāwanatanga space. And touching on the treaty principles of protection, participation, and partnership. It's important we uphold te tiriti o Waitangi. We want our tamariki to grow up in a Aotearoa where they're proud to be Māori. Recently, my daughter Zoe has been asking me questions. Why has this government been so anti-Māori? And this is just another example playing out in front of us this afternoon. So today we will take note of councillors who either abstain or vote against retaining our Māori ward. And to the government, we have a message for you. Shame on you. Shame on you for backing councils into a corner. Shame on you for forcing council's hand to hold an unnecessary and divisive referendum. They come from us. And as Māori, we'll be out in pretty quick hands of nations. The clear message today to all the whānau who have joined us in numbers is that we need to organise and we need to fight. And so councillors who do support today, we expect you to campaign and be active next year in support of Māori wards for this referendum. And to close, I just want to share a tongikura from King Tāwhiao, the second Māori king. Ki te kotahi te kākaho ka whati ki te kāpuia e kore e whati, which means if there is but one toi stem, it will break. But if they are together in a bundle, they will never break. So join our bundle, no reira I raro I te whakaro, o te aroha ki te tangata, te rangi Māori e, me te kotahitanga, pai marire.
Thank you, Anaru. Okay, now we're going to move to Akipa. Welcome.
E rangi nui, e papa tuanaku, e te whānau atua, whakatōhia tō koutou manaakitanga, ki roto I tēnei mahi o mātou. E tū ahau, ana I rongo, ana I runga, I te whenua, I tēnei rā. Ti hei mauri. Ko tōku ingoa, ko hakepa. ko rangi tāne te iwi, ko Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wararapa te iwi, te Atiawa te iwi. I thought it was important to speak today as wahine Māori, brought up as a Pākehā child. I'm born and brought up in Upper Hutt, a child of the 70s and 80s, a wonderful time in this world. But only went to one of my marae when someone died. Nothing was shared to me about my whakapapa from my father's side or my mother's side, are New Zealand-born Scots, Hatti Scots through and through. All of my whakapapa and my DNA is red. It's not a shade of pink. Okay. I'd like to tautoko Mayor Barry for pushing it through, acknowledging it, for a Māori ward, and acknowledging the rangatahi and everyone that's present today, because it's important to be here and be present, and it's really difficult to stand and speak, really difficult. It's not easy, especially when you don't do it. It's very easy to type on the social media. But I thought it was important to represent everyday mana whenua, everyday tangata whenua who aren't really important. I'd just like to make some points. The misinformation for the past 189 years is continual. I noticed the two flags present, and my tūpuna were part of the kotahitanga movement, the Māori Parliament at Papawai Pa, which was huge back in the day. And the Māori Parliament sat mostly on the East Coast. So I tautoko, but it's not a sovereign flag. It's not recognised by other nations across the world. There is a sovereign flag that is recognised across the world, and it's not here. Just a few more points. 1835, He Waka Pūtanga o Rangatiratanga o New Tirani, Declaration of Independence, assented by King William IV. 5 years later, more greed and land theft, ignoring that by the British settlers and their militia. In 1840, young Queen Victoria. There is the Treaty of Waitangi English version, which has been behind this misinformation, establishing New Zealand Parliament and then government, which is not even mentioned in either document because it was established 18 years after, 1856, 1858. It's not even. So we're here now, and this will have to do for now, because Māori, tangata whenua, mana whenua, who are learning our whakapapa and who we are, ko waio, but there are many who aren't, and they're caught up in the gangs in every community. The crime that is continuing is because our people are disconnected to our whakapapa and are connected to another colonial aspect, which is gangs. One more point, 1840, which many people on the social media don't even care when they're told, The population of British settlers were 2,000. The population of Inga Uri, Inga Hapu, Inga Rangatira was about 90,000. So for anyone to continually believe in the delulu that sovereignty was ceded is highly misinformed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. Pam Hanna. Welcome, Pam.
Kia ora koutou, Mayor and Councillors. Ko Pam Hanna aho, and Sylvia Allen and Barbara Scott are here to support what I'm going to say. I guess in a sense we're adding a Tiriti, tangata Tiriti voice, and we are here to ask you to strongly endorse your previous decision to institute a Māori ward for the 2025 election. I remember going to a local government New Zealand training day about 6 years ago and being shocked to realise that, for example, a rural ward could be created by a council without a referendum, but not a Māori ward. And this additional hoop has now unfortunately been reinstituted. If there is any possibility of circumventing it, or in case there is, you could perhaps ask your CEO, Joe Miller, to explore all possibilities of not holding a referendum in 2025. Creating avenues for Māori representation and decision-making ensures the upholding of tangata whenua perspectives and honours to Tiriti. Everyone benefits from Māori wars. We also want to support the name change for Petone to Pitaoni. Again, this just needs to be done. In that way, the name will probably return to its symbolic meaning. And I have read that the 1948 documents setting up the Petone Borough Council had Pitaoni in brackets, labelled as the correct spelling, but in the remarks column. So it's well past time for the name to be corrected. Kia ora.
Thank you, Pam. Is there any questions? Really appreciate it. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Barbara. Michelle Duquette. Welcome, Michelle.
Kia ora koutou. I just wanted to mihi to the previous speakers. They're very powerful, and I don't have much to add. Thanks, Pam, for your contributions. I'm just here as tangata Tiriti. I suddenly realised yesterday that my son will be the 6th generation of my family who have lived in Te Awa Kairangi, who have got to experience this beautiful space. And as tangata Tiriti, just wanted to tautoko anaru. I really appreciated your words. It's really important that all our children get to see themselves represented in this space. In 1979, I was at Taita Intermediate, and we learnt about the treaty, but we didn't learn there was a te tiriti. And I don't think we've got any excuse now in 2024 to understand what the meanings of the articles are. So just want to support the council in their support for this Māori ward, and to call on tangata Tiriti all around Te Awa Kairangi. So trusting that this vote goes ahead, that we will need to do a lot of mahi over the next year to encourage our community to stand up if we do need to go to a referendum. Kia ora.
Okay, we now have Whanua and Rihanna from Wainuiomata Intermediate School. Do you guys want to come up together? I know you're going to speak separately, but maybe we're about to the outside. Oh. Certainly not Wainuiomata Intermediate School, but my notes are wrong. Sorry about that. But hey, I'll pass it over to you. You've both got 3 minutes each.
Ko puki atua te maunga, ko waiwhitu te awa, ko aroha nui ki te tangata te marae, ko te ati awa te iwi, ko hanua re moni ahau. Before I start, I want to acknowledge the passing of Kini Tu Heitia and acknowledge our new Queenie, Te Ariki Nui Queenie Ngā Wai Honoitera i te pō. I'm reading this summary on behalf of my old Wainemata Intermediate Primary Principal, Mr. Craig Sharp, who couldn't be here today. You have the full written version in front of you. I support this position as a proud ex-student and as a rangatahi who is also mana whenua here through my whakapapa tū Te Atiawa. Wainemata Intermediate has been an important part of our own advocacy learning and pathways and gives me the confidence to do this today. I'm here today to speak about a matter of great importance, the issue of Māori wards and the upcoming vote on their future. Wainemata Intermediate is deeply committed to the principles of equity and social justice. These principles are not just academic, they are woven into our curriculum and our ethos. As a school, we actively support Te Tiriti o Waitangi as mandated by the 2020 Education Training Act, which requires us to uphold Māori Crown relationships and honour the treaty. The current legislation proposes that councils with Māori wards must either rescind or hold a referendum by September 6th on whether to retain these wards. Māori wards function similarly to Māori seats in Parliament, providing dedicated representation at the local government level. They ensure that Māori who are historically underrepresented in local governance have a guaranteed voice. The process of establishing Māori wards has already faced challenges. The Local Electoral Act of 2001 allowed for Māori wards but subjected them to the potential referendums if opposed by a small percentage of council's population. This requires for a referendum is unique and discriminatory. No other type of ward or committee faces such scrutiny or has to undergo a public vote. The discriminatory treatment is a breach of the principle of equity. Māori should not be singled out for the special referendum requirements. The Waitangi Tribunal has recognised that this policy undermines Māori rights and interests, violating principles of mutual benefit and protection. The argument that a majority can vote on the rights of a minority is fundamentally flawed and contrary to democratic values. History shows that democratic principles alone are not enough to protect minority interests. Specific safeguards like Māori wards are essential to uphold those rights. As we consider the future of Māori wards in our city, I urge this council to reflect on the principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the value of inclusion. De-establishing Māori wards not only undermines these principles, but also risks setting back progress towards equitable representation. Being courageous in this context means standing up for fairness and justice, even when it's challenging. As the late Moana Jackson, who had a huge impact on Wainemata, wisely said, true courage is about making the right decisions despite the pressure. I ask you to be brave and to uphold the commitments made under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Let us continue to build a city where everyone's voice is heard and valued. Ngā mihi.
Ko whakataha te maunga, ko Waitangi te awa, ko mā tātua te waka, ko ngā pui te iwi, ko tauwharo o rangia whiowhio te wharenoi, ko Rihanna ahau. I would like to speak to you on behalf of Ngā Haue Whā Wainemata Marae Kōtiro as a hashtag and as an ex-student of Wainemata Intermediate supporting Mr. Sharp's submission. I want to speak on two subjects that I see are local advocacy opportunities for Wainemata and for Māori. I know the community board decision is not until next week, but the timing is during school, so I want to raise this today so you can understand how our perspectives and the potential of losing both community boards and Māori wards is concerning. The common thing between the community boards and Māori wards is that they are important advocacies, platforms, and places we can use our voices to speak into. Being Māori and being from Wainemata, for many of us, losing these is a double hit. Ngā Haue Whā Wainemata Marae is a community initiative by Māori for Māori that's focused on sport, education, and culture. Ngā Haue Whā supports rangatahi like myself and younger in an environment enriched by cultural values and focuses on our academic success. I have been a part of this group since my time at Wainemata Intermediate, and I'll be starting year 13 at Sacred Heart College next year. Our team has seen some of our friends leave school and pursue impressive pathways. For example, Daisy is now an apprentice on a farm in Hawke's Bay. Amelia is training as an electrician locally. Jada is studying at UCOL, and Anais is at Victoria University. Our growth and achievements are greatly influenced by the leadership and support we receive from our community, our marae, our clubs, our schools, our families, and our wider support village. I'm also a part of the hashtags who are active youth voice advocates and have advocated on significant issues such as smoke-free car laws, regulations for vape stores, limiting liquor stores, and contributing to street naming decisions. Some of these things we were successful at achieving through our advocating and petitioning have already been reversed, and we don't want to see that happen again with our Māori wards and our Wānanga Community Board. If Māori wards and community boards are removed, it would diminish the effectiveness of the mentoring and support we receive and give to those younger than us. These boards give us a chance to do meaningful advocacies and contribute to communities. Without them, the effect that puts into mentoring us and others will lose its impact, as you will be taking away our avenues for us to make a difference. Please consider keeping both of these forums to help our community maintain their voice. We are two rangatahi behind us and beside us are teams and teams of rangatahi and hashtaggers to come, who need these platforms as our North Stars to aim our efforts towards. Thank you for listening.
Thank you both. Okay, next up we have, so just as a matter of process, can I'll move that we extend standing orders to allow for the public comment to come, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lewis. Any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Those against no. Declare that carried. Katie Brown. Welcome, Katie.
Kia ora koutou, ko Katie Brown tōku ingoa, he uri tēnei no raukawa no Ngāti Whātua, and I'm coming to you today as a korokoro resident and a Māori living in Te Awa Kairangi. And I'm hapu and I'm tired and I don't really want to be here, but all of us have come here because we value this, and the baby in my puku values this as well. So this is important stuff. It's really disappointing that this government has put all of you councillors in this position where you didn't want to be, where none of us want to be. Questioning the autonomy of councils is concerning. Forcing, mandating a change that's unfunded, that's only about Māori, that's not about any of the other special groups like rural groups, rural wards. It's only about Māori, and that's what's concerning for us. The rights of the minority should never be up for the majority to decide. This is a massive distraction from the actual issues that you were all really working hard on, like water, like infrastructure, like our core council business. So I appreciate the fact that you are in support of Māori wards in general, I think. I know that we're really lucky in Te Awa Kairangi and we've got a few Māori councillors, but that's not always guaranteed and they're not mandated to speak on behalf of Māori. We need these Māori wards to guarantee representation at the table. It's small representation, but it's important representation. And I applaud the work that the council has done to date with mana whenua, with Māori partnerships, and we can see the impact that these positive relationships has had for everyone in Te Awa Kairangi. Protection of our native species, our awa, our waterways, things that are important to Māori, but also benefit everyone in Te Awa Kairangi. Ensuring Māori wards means that this work will not only be strengthened along with all of our aspirations for kotahitanga. So when we think about how far the council has come, and in my time in Te Awa Kairangi, there's been huge moves and huge changes, beautiful changes with connection with Māori, to where it is now. There's been too much progress to walk backwards, and I thank the council for their position to proceed with the Māori wards. Tēnā koutou.
Thank you, Katie. So next up, we have students from Wainuamata High School, so Keelan Renata and Tira Jade Rawari. So if you'd like to both come up together, and you've both have 3 minutes each.
Me mihi ka tika rā ki tō tātou nei kingi kua riro nei moe mai e tūheitia. Ka huri ake te kōrero ki tō tātou nei kuini hau ngā waihono i te pō. Kia ora, ko Keelan Hau. I'm a student at Wainuamata High School with Teira. He uri tēnei no tūhoi, no ngā puhi, no Ngāti Hakapatu Heuheu, no Ngāti Porou, no ētahi atu iwi hoki. Today I speak to you on behalf of my tupuna and also as a hashtag, and I want to acknowledge Hanua and Rihanna. Back to the script. Tēnā tātou katoa e te koro o matua me Barry tēnā koe. Ngā kai kaunihira tēnā koutou. I am absolutely devastated to hear that my culture's representation on council is even being questioned. To me, as a rangatahi Māori of Te Awa Kairangi, it is important that we have a Māori ward councillor, because I've grown up in Te Ao Māori, and in fact my kuia established the immersion unit at Nana Primary School. And that means I've been soaked in ngā tikanga Māori and te reo, and I know how much it can do. In fact, I'm a product of it. And I feel like it's important that we have a Māori ward councillor, someone in an elected position who is Māori, who we can relate to, who sounds like us, and who understands our Māori worldview. To me, it's crucial that tangata whenua and Māori perspectives are upheld, because by upholding Māori perspectives, we will be closer to reaching better outcomes for Māori. Māori will also be more capable of contributing to the making of decisions, and we really need to consider future generations when having this kōrero. The rangatahi population is only 18.5% today, yet we make up 100% of the future. I'm confident that by doing this, we will bring positive change, strengthen the cultural diversity of Te Awa Kairangi, and reach better outcomes for Māori, our land, and our environment. Please listen to us, uphold our voices, uphold our mana motuhake, so we can collectively move forward into our future as a people. All of this is said in what I believe is the best interest of all who are a part of this extraordinary city, Māori mai, rangatahi mai, and of those who will one day set foot on this land. Ina he pai mo te Māori, he pai mo te katoa. And I just want to send a very clear message to the government that we as rangatahi Māori don't stand for this and will not be silenced. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou te whānau, ko Tira Jade tōku ingoa. I go to school at Wainuamata High School with Keelan, and huri tēnei no Te Aotearoa me Ngāti Raukawa. My kōrero is to the council is to retain the Māori ward. This is because a tangata whenua voice will support making decisions that prioritise the well-being of the whenua, the taiao, and the well-being of the people of Te Awa Kairangi. In these times, we have significant climate change challenges such as water shortages, changing weather causing damage, and unequal society that continues to keep Māori down. And a lesson to remember is what's good for Māori is what's good for everyone. In terms of well-being, not good in terms of corporate greed. So retain the voice that should always value well-being of the many, not the few, and honour te tiriti. My second area of kōrero is an encouragement to work with community on planning a successful referendum now, because there are many out there that aren't pro at Māori and some that are flat out against Māori. What can you council do to enable communities to get the education needed to vote en masse in favour of retaining the Māori wards? My third comment is about renaming Pitoni to Pitoone, and I would like to put my voice on favour of returning to the Māori name that Pitoni came from. It is correcting a wrong that should not have happened. Finally, te pai tawhiti, I would like to raise renaming Lower Hutt to Te Awa Kairangi. The Hutt is named after William Hutt, a New Zealand company director. The New Zealand company who brought early settlers to the land and were part of the tools of colonisation. Te awa kairangi, if approved by mana whenua, honours the mana of Māori and the special character of the local tile. That's a longer term plan I hope the council will turn attention to. Nō reira, hei whakakapi o kukorero whae te kaurangi ki te sua hukwe me he maunga teitei. Tēnā koutou, tēnā hoki tātou katoa.
Talented students from Wainuiomata High School, tell you. It's been some very good speakers from all of our schools so far. Thank you so much. Okay, next up we have Barbara Hay. Welcome, Barbara.
Kia ora koutou, my name's Barbara Hay, born and bred in the Hutt Valley, not too far from these buildings. I wish to urge the Council to continue with the decision to establish a Māori ward at the 2025 elections. I've been prompted to come by a letter to the editor in the Hutt News last week, and I stomped around my lounge for a while, and I'm going to miss the first part of his suggestion that most people are leaving New Zealand because we're speaking too much te reo Māori. I'll get to the chase. The letter continues in the second half. Quote, "Why say whenua for land and Aotearoa for New Zealand? Many leavers are fed up with having te reo thrust at them in place of English. Why infer that Māori do not have a voice at our table when Māori are well represented in Parliament and local government and stand shoulder to shoulder with all other citizens regardless of the colour of their shoulders? The polarisation is going on by people who cannot accept that we are all citizens with the same rights and privileges, and our ethnicity is irrelevant to our governance at every level. Bah humbug, I say. The thinly disguised negative attitude towards te ao Māori reflects what sadly still exists in the age cohort I belong to. I would challenge the under-30s feel the same way, based on my experiences with Huttfest, where we've got practically every primary school in the valley participating, and many of them are non-Māori. At our table is considered the be-all and end-all way society should think and act, and is still predominantly drawn from the dominance of British governance. I come from a background of white privilege and can clearly reflect on my life and the advantages I have enjoyed compared to Māori. Most of our systems are designed around those of my upbringing, and I live comfortably in them. By Māori, for Māori should be an essential aspect of our treaty obligations. On many occasions, as a school principal, I have learned the hard way that our children, tamariki, come from a wide cultural spectrum, and that my cultural comfort is not necessarily theirs. I have had to learn to move aside a little and let other viewpoints and practices have space. What a rich and fulfilling experience this has been. Until there is true partnership between Māori and tauiwi, non-Indigenous New Zealanders, as should have been developing since 1840 with the treaty, but plagued with deception and disregard ever since, we must ensure the Indigenous minority voice is heard at both local and national governance levels. We must challenge the government's intent to force local referendum on this matter, a clear move by one arm of the coalition to deny te ao Māori a voice in the corridors of power. To council members, stand firm, and kia kaha to you all in these tricky times. Thank you.
Next up, Muriel Tunaho. Welcome, Muriel.
Kia ora tātou. Whakamihi tuatahi kia koutou katoa, tēnā koe Campbell mō tō tātou mihi mahana ki te kingi tūheitia, haere atu rā, haere atu rā. Moi rā, yeah. He uri ahau o Raukawa ki uta, ko Raukawa ki tai. Ko Muriel Tunaho ahau. You met my son Anaru and two of our 6 mokopuna earlier. We settled in Petone in the 60s, I guess when jobs were plentiful for my parents. I've been a ratepayer since 1982, and we raised our two sons in our whānau home where we still live. I'm here today, though, as a union leader for E2. E2 has approximately 1,000 members that work across our community in the local hospitals as orderlies, as kitchen workers, and care and support. They make food and manufacturing in the industries as well. They're also employed as school and commercial cleaners. So collectively, E2 comes here today kind of feeling a bit hoha, like some of the other speakers before me, but essentially to support the council for voting in favour of the Māori wards last year. I attended a hui at Waifatu Marae last year to participate in the important kōrero. E2 supported the establishment of the independent review panel the council undertook and acknowledged the brave decisions that council made and the recommendations from that panel. The council considered that report, and we value the outcomes of the decision as well. We also support the sentiments made by mana whenua. And when I was reading today, I just wanted to quote Whaia Liz, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koe, Liz Mellish, who said after the council made the vote last year, quote, for Liz, she quoted, I go back to the deal that her rangatira te whare pauri and honiara te puni made in 1939 on Petone Beach. On his deathbed, te whare pauri said, quote, after I have gone, be good to my people and my European people. Let the thunder of your voice reach me in the spirit land. I imagine Liz's tupuna heard the call and that thunderous sound when this council made the right decision and agreed to establish the Māori wards. So I'm here today too to also place on record feeling completely just angry that this council has been placed in a position by this current government, a government that is driving a wedge of division across our nation. And kind of coming out of 7 days of deep grief and mourning back at Tūranga Waiwai, I think everybody will agree that that was a huge expression of aroha by Waikato Tainui. And I think there was also a reminder that in the deep grief and sorrow, there is always aroha. And I think that's what's sad, that this government is driving its politics without aroha. But I really want to acknowledge this council for being brave and courageous and progressive, and E2 stands beside the council to continue the mahi and valuing the place of mana whenua and tangata whenua in our communities as added value, not as something to feel threatened about. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Linda Olsen. Welcome, Linda.
Please. Kia ora te whānau, ngā mihi kia koutou katoa. First of all, just to acknowledge King Heitia, the Queen o Paenui. Those that don't know me, ko Linda Olsen taku ingoa. I've come as a resident of Wainemata. That's my hat today. And I pulled Janice off the seat because she's wearing the right, correct flag. Okay, that is the flag, and I praise you, councillors, for the Tino Rangatira flag. But I think you really need that one up too, yeah, because that's the meaning of Māoridom. And you've all seen it in the last few days through King Heitia's tangi. And that's how we roll us Māori whānau. At the moment, I have a tangi that I have to organise, in the process of organise, and we just roll just like that. We don't have to have all the agendas, this and that all around there. We just do it. And you all know that. You know how our marae roll. And my stance today, as I've been promoting out there in the paper and outside the marae grounds, is to please retain our Māori ward. It's only one seat, one voice. That's all we ask for. Is that frightening? Of course not. And don't waste $80,000. For goodness sake, we can help you to spend that money on something else. You know, $80,000 is just really peanuts. How many thousands of dollars that you spend on really for nothing? But I was born and bred in Taranaki. As a 12-year-old, come here, but being brought up there, they were trying to fit us into the Pākehā glove, right? I'm grateful for living in Wainemata for the past 60 years. We could do anything what we like. We can be Māori. So I'm just so proud of that. But in saying that, there's still a lot of things to be fixed up. Isn't that right, Janice? Janice has been there longer. She was born and bred. Hey, Janice. Yeah. So just a message, if we're going to be practising kotahitanga, we better be real about it. And also I'd like to mention our mana whenua, I'm mana whenua as well, but to our whānau, te rangatira, and the ones that are unable to come today, like Kura, he would have come, but because they've all gone to support other. This is important, but there are other issues that have to be sorted. So I hope the message has come through, because from the last speakers, they've already covered everything that I've been thinking of. But please, please, please retain our Māori ward seat. We never came here last year to support it for nothing. So that's why we're here again today. So if there's any questions, I'm willing to take that. But we're about kotahitanga and tino rangatiratanga. So next time I come here, this flag will be flying up there, because that is the truth.
One like
it.
One like it.
Oh, one like it, yeah. So, yeah. So as you know, look, I support the rangatahi, because my time's just about up for advocating. I'll always be in the background, but I'm going to support all our rangatahi from the kuras to come here and speak about Māori. Be proud to be Māori, like the Kingitanga said. Be Māori every day, and that's who we are going to be. No one's going to ever change it, and that's what we're going to plant in our tamariki mokopuna. So that's it. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Kia ora. You want to say something?
Wayne Paka. Welcome, Wayne.
Oh, ka pai, Wayne.
Tēnā koe, Campbell, tēnā koutou. Ko ke rangi te maunga ko waipu tawa ko ngā te parautoko iwi, uri anō no ngā puhi me ngā tūkahunga hoki. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Wayne Parker. I've lived locally all my life, and I was actually one of the very first bilingual teachers trained in 1990, Sesqui 150 years of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. I'd just like to acknowledge the recent passing of Topsiri Murder, who was also a person who trained with me at that time. And we both did some of our training through Waifatu, which then became Tarawhanui. I'll start off addressing the issues. Local city councils in Aotearoa should strongly endorse Māori wards for several compelling reasons. Firstly, Māori wards are a crucial step towards ensuring that Māori voices are authentically represented in local governance. This representation is essential for addressing the unique needs and aspirations of Māori communities, fostering a more inclusive and equitable decision-making process. Māori wards allow for the direct involvement of Māori in shaping policies and services that impact their lives. This leads to more culturally responsive and effective solutions, as Māori councillors bring valuable perspectives and insights rooted in their lived experiences and cultural heritage. The inclusion of Māori perspectives enhances the richness of local governance and ensures the decisions are reflective of the diverse community they serve. Endorsing Māori wards also aligns with the principles of the Te Tiriti o Waitangi, affirming the commitment to partnership, protection, and participation. It demonstrates a proactive approach to reconciliation and acknowledges the historical and ongoing challenges faced by Māori. By creating a more representative local government structure, councils can better address disparities and work towards more equitable outcomes for all residents. Furthermore, Māori wards contribute to a stronger, more cohesive community. When all groups feel represented and heard, social cohesion is strengthened, leading to more engaged and harmonious communities. This fosters a collaborative environment where diverse viewpoints are valued and integrated into the decision-making process. In summary, endorsing Māori wards is a forward-thinking and just initiative and enhances representation, aligns with the Tiriti principles and strengthens community cohesion. It is an essential step towards a more inclusive and effective local governance system in Aotearoa. I too, like Linda, was here at the last time the council voted, and it was good to see a good turnout. One thing I was disappointed that it wasn't a unanimous decision. So I will ask the member that abstained from voting last time if they would reconsider and vote for this. Kia ora tātou.
Lillian Park. And as Lillian comes up, I'd also just thank you, Wayne, for acknowledging the sudden passing of Topsy and obviously the long-standing teacher in Wainumata, principal at Pukeatua School, and we'll certainly make a note of that in this meeting. Thanks.
Tēnā koutou katoa, no korea ki te tonga me haina me inia o Kutipuna. I whana mai aho ki Edmonton, I tipu ake aho ki Canada. Ko nai toku whatu manoa. I tai mai aho ki Aotearoa I te tō rua mano. Ko Chris toku hoa rangatira, ko Yuli taku tamahine, e noho ana mātou ki te awa kairangi ki tai. Ko Lillian toku ingoa. So my name is Lillian, and as you can tell, I'm not from New Zealand. I'm not from Aotearoa. And Nanai has a special place, and that's where I live, and I live in Lower Hutt. I wasn't actually going to speak today, but when I came to sign in, they asked me if I wanted to say something. And I hummed and hawed, and I thought, well, no, I have to say something, because when you see something that's happening that's not just, you need to speak up, because everybody, if people don't speak up, then bad things keep happening. So for me, the Tiriti o Waitangi is the first immigration policy of New Zealand. And because of that, I'm able to be here. And so I wanted to actually acknowledge the Tiriti. For me, the Tiriti is really important because it's not just the founding document of this country, but it's how we actually behave in our attitudes and how we should conduct ourselves. And as someone that's new to Aotearoa, I'm really proud that we have the Tiriti here and that we have such a document. But it really saddens me when we actually don't take it seriously, or we try to pretend it's not there, or we try to walk around it, or basically abuse it. Also, as a migrant, I wanted to say that I watch, and I know that other migrants do too, and former refugees. We watch, and we watch how people treat the tangata whenua, the people of Aotearoa. And we think, if you treat Māori so badly, if you take away their rights, or if you allow systemic discrimination, then we actually have no chance. So what happens to us? What happens to migrants? If you can't treat tangata whenua well, then you won't see us ever as your equals either. So I actually brought my 13-year-old. She's sitting there. She was going to sit here, but she's a little bit shy. And the reason why I brought her is because I, as a mother, always try to teach her about equity and respect and integrity and about doing the right thing. And for us today, this is like a historic moment. And I'm just hoping that the council is on the right side of history, on the correct side of history. So, and yeah, so that's why she's here, and that's why I thought I'd speak. I also wanted to make a point about the name Pitone. Just sitting here reflecting, when my daughter was born, it took us a long time to find a name for her because we needed to have a name that reflected our aspirations, our hopes, but also our past, our tipana, our ancestry, our cultures. And it took a long time, and we got a lovely name for her, Ulele or Yuli, which can be both Korean and European. And whenever I see people spell her name wrong or spell my name wrong, I feel really horrible and really cringe because it also reminds me of my father. He was born in Korea. He lived under the occupation, of the Japanese occupation. He was forced to have a Japanese name. When he immigrated to Canada, he gave us all English names because he thought that was the right thing to do. And he passed away 10 years ago. And on his deathbed, he told me he really regretted not giving me a Korean name because I don't have one. Sorry. And at the time, he said that he had a Korean name for my daughter if I wanted to have it for her. And of course, I said yes, because it's so important to have that. It's so important to have the dignity of your culture and your background. So, sorry. That's all I have to say.
Don't say sorry. Thank you very much for sharing. Tauri Dawson. Outside. Welcome.
Kia ora tātou te whānau. So my name's Tauri Dawson. I live in Wainuamata. And I suppose for me there's been a lot of really articulate arguments put forward for Māori wards, but I suppose one might be a little bit different, but hopefully it will have some meaning. My grandfather was a good Scotsman, second generation Scotsman who chose to go and serve in the Second World War. He was captured on Crete, and like many men of his generation, he never spoke about it. He was imprisoned in Germany, and one of the things that they had to do at that time to transport that many men that distance is they had to walk. And one of the things that my grandfather talked about, and the few times that he would talk about it, was the thing that stood out for him was not the cruelty or the death or the injustice that he saw in the camp. It was as he walked through these towns, the everyday people of Germany turned their backs and pretended that they weren't even there. And before my grandfather died, he said his biggest regret and the thing that he would change about that is we'd like to speak to some of those people and say, how can you turn your back on evil? There's a war in our country right now, and there's a war of division that tells us that you are not me and I am not you, that our uniqueness is a threat to each other. Where do we stand? Who do you as councillors want to be? Because you can see the people arrayed around this room. They're asking you to make a decision of character and integrity. And unfortunately, those decisions oftentimes don't occur in an easy or a popular fashion. It's a war on not what I do, it's a war on who I am. It's a war on who we are. This is an opportunity for us to turn and actually see each other's faces and really look at each other, irrespective of where we're from. And if we can't do it now, well, I know for my people, we'll be here. We were here before and we'll be here after, and we'll have those conversations with your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, and they'll be happy of them. So my question is, is in considering this referendum and where you want to stand, what's the message that you want to give to those young women who got up and stood from Wainuamata? From those kids, from children, not just Māori and Pacific Island kids who are struggling with their identity, where they're from, who they are, and what value they have. When we turn around and we turn our backs on the problem, it's like being stabbed with a knife and then thinking if I ignore the wound, it will heal itself. So here's the challenge. Here's my whittle. You may not believe that this is the right step, but what I challenge you to do is do your own research. There is no magic fund for Māori people. People always talk about iwi money and all the Māori money and all the billions of money. I tell you what, if you know where that place is, holla. Because I've got a swipe card and everything, I'm ready to go. So the thing is, do us this favor. Research. Don't let fact be supplanted by opinion or emotion. And then make a decision based on your conscience, on who you want to be, not just in front of everyone, but in your families and your communities, when there's no one there to see or hear. Who are you? Ko wai koe, mō hia koe. And that's a whittle that I think we're all putting, because honestly, we're all in this together, whether we like it or not, and we get to choose what we do. And those people who sit up in that, whatever that thing is on the hill at the moment, they would like us to not see each other. But the most important voices and the most important stories that we have are the ones we tell each other. So what story are you going to tell? Kia ora.
Dina Awarao. Dina, welcome.
Tēnā tātou katoa, ko Dina Awarao taku ingoa, no Ngāti Porou ahau, he Māori ahau. Introduce yourself.
Kia ora, ko Mere Tapaki taku ingoa, te Aotearoa te iwi, kia ora.
Kia ora, so I'm here on behalf of all the kaupapa Māori groups and all the other groups I'm involved with within the Hutt Valley, which is heaps. You know, the reason why I do that is because I want my mokopuna to know that, hey, when they're walking down the street, there's all these groups that Māori can be involved in and are involved in and have started. So in particular, I'm here today though talking is Hutt Union Health, the primary health service out in Pomare, Petone and Taira, as the manager there and on behalf of all our people that use our services, which is a high number of Māori there. And I'd just like to say that, you know, we're in support of retaining a Māori seat, of having a Māori seat dedicated solely for a Māori person. Can you imagine our mokopuna opening up their papers and seeing someone that looks like them, sounds like them, and shares the same values as them, and knows exactly what their te ao Māori looks like. So having a space on council for that would be awesome. I'm also here on behalf of Te Ngākau Kahukura as the co-chair with my whanaunga. And that's the Rainbow Space down in Ipuni. And, you know, the most vulnerable people never get to have put a word in. They don't get to have a say. You know, our kids are growing up in a world where, I mean, I was born and bred up the East Coast. I think the biggest issue of our time was that the pound man took the dog away. But, you know, when you look at today's issues that our kids are having to face, especially being Māori, yeah. And I don't want that for my mokopuna who have to, unfortunately. They can't grow up the East Coast like I did. They have to grow up in Te Awa Kairangi. So, yeah, so I want to just put out there that we're in support of having a Māori ward, a Māori seat dedicated for Māori in this area. And also, I'd like to support the name Pitone. My kids went to Petone Central School, and they always called it Petone anyway. I used to drive them from Taira, and we used to see words like ane mata, mate, which was animates, pehone, which was phone. So, you know, the growing in the city of Māori words, which is I see are more prevalent. You guys have done that, the council have done that, so you can do this. So, yeah, Mere, got something to say? Anything to say? Here we go.
Hey, so with my pōtai on at our health service, we're supporting many of our whānau in our communities, and their voices, they need their voice on council, so, you know, they can approach us with various things, but you need that pathway. Their voices need to be heard at the end of the day. All our voices for Māoridom need to be heard.
And also working in health, and I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of our kingi and all those who have passed from around our area as well. But we also lost a great man, Dr. Dougal Thorburn. He was a Māori doctor that worked with us in 2019, and he was passionate about equity and Māori issues, and he wrote a lot of things. He was just very excited to be Māori. And as that being a GP in the Hutt Valley that a lot of people would have known. And with, yeah, it's just, yeah, just want to acknowledge that. So our people can be in great spaces, so save them a seat.
And online we have Kara Pukatapu. Welcome, Kara.
Kia ora mai tātou. Tuatahi ake ka tūnga mihi. Ki tēnā tā tātou nei king. Ko wehe atu nā ki te pō, haere o kia tūrā, kia waikinui, hawai ki roa, hawai ki pā mama. O ki wairua mai rā kia ngai tātou, o te anō rā, ki tō tātou nei kuini hou. Te arikinui, kuini ngā waihono i te pō, nei rā ka tuku mihi atu kia a koe. Rire hau, pai mārire. Kia koutou katoa, kua whakakao mai nei rā, marunga nei te karanga o tēnei kaupapa, karere atu rā ngā mihi, kia koutou. Kia koe te koro matua, Campbell, tēnā koe ki ngā kaikaunihera, o te awa kairingi ki tai, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. In 1982, the first kōhanga reo in Aotearoa was established. That kōhanga reo was established in Te Awa Kairangi ki tai. In fact, it was established in the center of the universe, the greatest town in the country, called Wainuiomata. It's been 42 years since the establishment of Kōhanga Reo. And today, we have a Māori queen whose first language is Māori. We have a Māori queen who has been brought up in kura kaupapa Māori and has also gone through university and has a master's in tikanga Māori. And she is also a very passionate and capable master in the arts of kapahaka. She's just one of thousands, of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of us out there who have gone through the same journey as her. And today, coming off what has been an amazing day, 7 days in the acknowledgement of the passing of our King, we have seen the expression of Māoritanga in its finest form. In 1984, we had the exhibition of Te Māori. 40 years next week, we celebrate its birthday. And that, just like Kohanga Reo, had a starting point within Te Awa Kairangi. In 1984, we demonstrated ourselves on the world stage. Our art was everywhere. We were on the front page of the New Yorker, just like our Queen. But back then, and for a long time, the expression of who we are as Māori was often relegated to the museums and to places that were cold. But what Te Māori did, what Kohanga Reo did, was create a starting point, a reignition of who we are, a reigniting of our Māoritanga. And you can see it in full display today. You can see it in the whittle that's been put down today. You can see it by the commitment of parents who have children and ensuring that they go to kohanga reo, that they go to kura kaupapa, that their children learn our reo. You see it in the commitment of a soon-to-be mother sitting here and putting forward the fight to ensure that her yet-to-be-born child comes into a world that reflects their values, our values. We've seen tangata tiriti holding the line, advocating for us, being staunch in our fight together. We've seen our unions. We've seen Auntie Linda holding up our flag. Ka tukuna tunga mihi kia koe, Auntie Linda and Auntie Janice. We've seen people who have arrived here because the Treaty of Waitangi enabled them to get here. We have seen and heard from people who have talked for all the organizations that they wear hats for. And as Māori, we often wear many hats because we have to. We've heard from our rangatahi who are unashamed to be Māori. We have heard from Ngāti Raukawa. We have heard from Ngāti Porou. We have heard from Tūhoi. We have heard from ngā iwi katoa today. And my hope is that we will soon hear from our councillors who will show their unyielding support for us as New Zealanders, for us as Māori. Auntie Liz opened us up today, and thank you, Auntie Liz. I get the privilege of providing a perspective from us as the collective of ngā iwi o Taranaki whānui who reside here in Te Awa Kairangi ki tai. I support everything that's been said today, and I fully back all of those speakers, their whānau, their iwi, and all the mahi that they do for all of us. I support those who are rallying on the grounds, putting the fight to the crown. I support those who are just being Māori in all the things that they do. And for me, the job is to ensure that in everything that we do, we rise above, because that's what our King has shown. As Michelle Obama said, when they go low, you go high. And that's what we will do. And as Maya Angelou said, still I rise, still you rise, still we rise. And maybe a quote from Winston Churchill, a person that probably the right quite like. Failure is never fatal. Success is never final. It's the ability to carry on, which is the testament of a real person. So it's that. It's on that kaupapa of continuing on and pushing forward. Because regardless of what this government's going to do, and regardless of what's going to be thrown at us, in my mind, and I think in the minds of many of our rangatahi, we've already won this fight. We have already won this fight. And we just need you to continue to be at our side, to keep on pushing with us, and to keep on going. So with that, nei rā te mihi atu ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa, kia tū tangata ai tātou katoa, rire rire hau, pai mārire.
Thank you, Kara. Okay, Okay, now, thank you to all of our speakers, and we will have our Māori Ward discussion up first, so please feel free to stay in the chamber. First, we do need to do conflict of interest declarations. Is there any conflicts of interest for members to declare? No? Okay, moving on. Item 5, which is the decision to establish Māori wards at the 2025 elections, and this is on page 8 of your agenda. Richard Hardy, our Head of Strategy and Policy, will speak to the paper, see if there's any questions, and we'll go from there.
Kia ora koutou, Mr Mayor, councillors. Thank you for this opportunity to present the report. The report you have in front of you is for Council today to reaffirm or rescind its decision that was made on the 21st of November 2023 to establish a Māori ward in Te Awa Kairangi ki tai Hutt. This will be the third time that you have considered this question of Māori wards, and comes as a result of the Local Government Electoral Amendment Act that was passed in July. This requires this decision to be made today or no later than 6th of September. The legislation requires that if Council affirms having a Māori ward, it will trigger a need for a binding poll in the 2025 elections on having a Māori ward. If Council rescinds its decision today, it will require a new representation process to be undertaken that will override the representation discussion that you have coming up on the 10th of September, next Tuesday. And that's all I have to say in terms of introduction. Happy to take any questions.
Is there any questions from councillors? No? Okay. So we will move to the recommendations which are before us, noting that my mayoral recommendation number 4 is to reaffirm our decision of the 21st of November 2023 to establish a Māori ward in Te Awa Kairangi ki tai Lower Hutt. Is there any other recommendations that members would like to put? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor Barry. I'd like to move an amendment and a few additional recommendations. The amendment is to recommendation number 5. If Council decides to reaffirm its decision to establish a Māori ward, there will be a binding poll in the 2025 election. I'd just like to change the wording of that, and I'll explain why later. To read that Council will be forced to hold a binding poll in the 2025 election. And I'll speak to that a little bit later on. I emailed through some additional recommendations. I don't know if they can be brought up on the screen. I'm happy to read them out. And thank you for your recommendations, Mayor Barry, including, of course, to affirm our decision. So the additional recommendations are the amendments there down the bottom. The additional recommendations, I'll read them for you. That Council affirms its opposition to provisions allowing Māori wards and constituencies to be vetoed by public poll, unlike any wards or any other wards or constituencies proposed by councils. That Council affirms its commitment to honouring Te Tiriti o Waitangi, including its obligation under the Local Government Act of 2002 to improve opportunities for Māori to contribute to local government decision-making processes. That Council calls on the government to honour Te Tiriti o Waitangi in all of its legislation, policies and practices. And finally, that Council requests the Chief Executive to provide advice on the implications of Hutt City Council refusing to hold a referendum on Māori wards in conjunction with the 2025 triennial general election. If I could just speak to the reasons behind that, or...
Yep, so we do need it to be moved. If you're happy to take the amendment as a whole as well, along with my mayoral recommendation, I'm happy for you to move it, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, happy to move that.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Morgan.
And if I could just speak to it briefly, I guess if I'm the first to address the room, I must first acknowledge our manuhiri, our hapori. We've heard from rangatahi and rangatira, tangata whenua and tangata tiriti alike. Thank you for giving up your precious time and energy to speak to us or just to be here to show your support for this kaupapa. Even though you may be hoha, hapu, or just tired of all this, thank you. I would we second like to acknowledge the other 40-something councils who have already voted to Māori wards for the 2025 election, who stood fast in their members and affirmed their own decisions to create Māori wards for the good of their communities. We're the last to make that decision today, and only two, Kaipara District Council and our neighbours in Upper Hutt, have denied their residents a say in referenda at the next election. There's been a lot of rich kōrero, not just in the room today, but around the motu over the past few weeks. And I tuned in yesterday to a meeting in Ruapehu District Council, where I was reminded by, I guess, one of our colleagues in local government, even though we're affirming a past decision of our own today, we are also making history. All of us in the room are making history. And the words on the screen will go into our minutes as a record of history. So I really want that record to be unambiguous in recording what's been discussed today and where we stand. So therefore, clarity about the fact that we will be forced to hold a binding poll. It's not something we're doing of our own will. And because we've been called here today by the government for a special meeting to affirm something, affirming our positions on other things as well. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the recommendations? Councillor Barrett.
Kia ora, Mr Mayor. So I say that I stand in support for establishing the Māori ward, and I stand, and I feel quite emotional about this, because I stand for my mokos. My children's grandmother had her voice stolen from her many years ago. She had her heritage stolen from her. So my children and my mokos are only just finding out who they truly are. Our little piece of Aotearoa has to take a brave step today. We have to stand strong in our voices. I have been told, as I've asked the question, you vote for a Māori ward, you lose my vote. The big thing is by voting for what I believe in today, I keep my integrity, and no one can steal that. This council, proudly in years gone by, had its own kapahaka rōpū, and I see Helen standing over there. We stood with Fire Elmer, and we stood with Binny Andrews, who often used to make the lovely quip, I want you to look around you and I want you to see who has a brown face. They don't have brown faces, but they have brown hearts. I was a part of that rōpū for 10 years, something that I was extremely proud of. So we've had a really long relationship with Māori that has been both strong and proud for many years. And our decision today must be that we continue that. Kia ora.
Councillor Shaw.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Ko name is Shaw Tukuingwa, and my apologies for not being with you today. First, I wish to ngā mihi to all of you for once again coming to speak in public comment today. Your views are clear and your compassion is undeniable. And I especially want to tautoko Craig Sharp, the Principal of Wainuiomata Intermediate, for your written statement we received today and your tamariki support. If our rangatahi are exposed to such clear leadership, then our community is in a very good space. Last November 2023, we celebrated a decision to create a Māori ward in Te Awa Kairangi ki tai Lower Hutt for the 2025 elections. It was a beautiful and proud day for us all as the council chambers swelled with people, and we heard kōrero and waiata to support the momentous decision we made. And we did so to uphold the principles of tiriti o Waitangi and to strengthen the voice of Māori in the governance of the community. I'm proud I'm part of a proactive council that has forged a strong relationship with our mana whenua partners, and establishing a Māori ward was the next step to strengthening this relationship to build on what we have done so far. I'm proud of my heritage from my English father, Jack Shaw, and my mother, Tangiora Shaw, who whakpapas to Ngāti Kahungunu ki Te Wairu. And I'm proud to be Kiwi. And all of these qualities I have help me make good decisions as an elected member for all people in our community. Then a three-headed taniwha reared its head earlier this year, telling us that we don't know our community, that we don't know what we're doing. They don't trust us to do the right thing. And a quote from Tuari Dawson, one of the submitters today, that our uniqueness is a threat to each other. These actions are a total overreach of central government into local body governance. Their action has stirred emotions and promoted division in our people at a time when more than anything, we need calm. And now we have to jump through hoops that are effectively forcing us to reconsider our earlier decision made. And if that's not bad enough, it's even worse when this action is discriminatory against Māori and only Māori. We need to remain faithful to our earlier decision and do the right thing. Better representation leads to better governance, and it's a win-win for all of our community. Ka mahi tahi taho, ka tama tātou. Working as one so we all succeed. So today I support the recommendation to reaffirm our decision of the 21st November 2023 to establish a Māori ward in Te Awa Kairangi ki tai Lower Hutt. I also endorse our opposition to provisions allowing Māori wards in constituencies to be vetoed by public poll, unlike any other wards or constituencies proposed by councils. Kia ora.
Councillor Briggs, then Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues. Firstly, I want to acknowledge all the speakers here today, and apologies for not being there in person. I'm about to momentarily board a plane, but it was important for me to be here today to support and reaffirm my position of supporting Māori wards in Te Awa Kairangi ki tai. I may miss the vote due to jumping on the plane in a minute, but please have it noted in the minutes that I am reaffirming my position to support our community by having a Māori ward at the next election and hopefully many, many elections to come. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa.
Councillor Brown.
Tēnā tātou te aroha ki tō tātou kingi tū heitia pō tātou te whiru. Mihi mai moi mai rā. Tēnā tātou te aroha ki tō tātou ariki nui kuini ariki ngā wai hono i te pō. Ngā mihi atu kia rātou te kingi taha me te kaumārua. Tēnā koutou te mana whenua o Te Atiawa. Takiri tū te kotahitanga, takiri tū te mana motu haki. Tēnā koutou manuhiri mā Kei runga noa atu koutou. I acknowledge the passing of our Kingi Tuheitia. And I had points that I wanted to talk to today, but most of them have come out in a much more articulate way than I think any of us could put together. So I feel very elated for today. This is probably one of the most important meetings that we've had in my time anyway in a second term, and it's very different to what we sometimes experience in this chamber. I was going to talk about the current, where we are now, the te ao me te pō, the night and day of what we're experiencing. We've just experienced 7 days of mourning for King Tuheitia, but also we experienced the kingitanga and across te ao Māori of manaakitanga, of service, of gentle alignment, of working together. And at the same time, we are experiencing in the last year deep division, and for being in a position of decision making, I note Tuare Dawson noted it really strongly that turning your back, it feels hard at times. And there's been many times in the House that we've had people who have absolutely disagreed, and I was feeling quite nervous about coming today because I thought we've had so many emails against the Māori ward through Hobson's Pledge, through others. I've personally been emailed, and those people aren't here. So, and they would have us think that the majority doesn't want Māori wards. But I think we know that to be not true. But we have got the tyranny of the majority, so we have got a lot of work to do. I wanted to talk about, and I heard a lot too, that on social media and in the emails about, and it's rhetoric about we've got one person, one vote, and we're all equal. We don't have one person, one vote, because we have many people who own multiple homes who can vote in different areas. But that's not the case for Māori. We only have one vote. We have been, over the years, we've been ravaged and it hasn't been equal. And I note the laws that we thought were well behind us, like the New Zealand Settlements Act and the Native Lands Act, that confiscated our land when we were economically strong and we were able to care for our collective iwi. When our te reo was banned from schools through the Native Schools Act, and like my father, punished and beaten for speaking his reo, that contributed to the absolute language decline and cultural erosion. And even we thought a lot of these things were behind us, but of recent we had the Takutai Moana, foreshore and seabed, and then also the Tohunga Suppression Act that took away our cultural activities. So we thought that was behind us, but here we are today. Here we are with the abolishment of the Māori Health Authority. Here we are with the treaty wanting to be relitigated and reconsidered its principles on how it should be working in today's environment. We've got a te tiriti that works fine, and as been mentioned by several of you, if we can accept that we have two cultures working together. And the division of the general opposition to Māori Crown relations. That has been really hard to be working in an environment when we thought we were so far past that. We had rangatahi at the table, so strong in our culture, so strong in their views, and we're excited to be building again. And now we've started to have to fight again for what we shouldn't be fighting for. And the Māori ward is one of those things that we have to fight for and justify. However, all of that said, today I have absolute faith in the good people of Te Awa Kairangi ki tae. I have absolute faith in our rangatahi, who, as one said, At the moment, they're 18%, but they are 100% of tomorrow's future. And I have faith that people that feel so triggered about partnership in Māori will be balanced by the many voices that we have got coming through, the rangatahi we've got coming through. And I say in faith to Heitia that, and I had the whakatauki that Anaru very eloquently talked about, but when we have one string, it becomes weak. When we all have many and we all work together, we are strong as kotahitanga. So I really support this, and I hope this voice goes out to the many voices who did not come today and sat on their keyboards and gave their other views. Kia ora.
Councillor Morgan, Councillor Dyer.
Tihei Mauri ora. Anō te pai te ahua reka o te noho o ngā taina me ngā tuakana I runga I te whakaro kotahi tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou nā kaumatua, nā mihi kia koutou. Nau mai hara mai ki tēnei hui te ahi. I tautoko o tō whakaro me te kaupapa me te wairua. He tino rawe, nā mihi kia koutou, ki te kahore he whakakitinga ka ngaro te iwi. Ko tō reo, ko tōku reo, te tuakiri tangata, tihei, uri tihei nako. Engare, mā te kotahitanga e whai kaha ai tātou. Ai? I hara taku toa I te toa taki tihi. Engare, he toa taki tine. Kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawa nui, nā mihi kia koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora koutou, everyone. I wanted to mihi to our speakers today and thank them so much for being here, for their courage and your conviction, and for all of you and your support. To the students, our rangatahi, I am so proud of you, and they are right there, the reason why we must have Māori wards. I absolutely will be voting to support Māori wards and reaffirm our original vote, and I do also support the motion amendments moved. Māori must have a voice at our table and must be active participants in our decision-making at all levels, now and in the future. The government speaks about supporting localism and devolution. However, by introducing new legislation to hold a binding poll, a referendum in 2025 for us to retain the Māori wards we already voted to support, when no other ward or geographical ward is mandated to do so, is discriminatory towards Māori, and it is unacceptable. Enforcing a law that treats Māori differently from non-Māori, New Zealanders, a law implemented with politician with the intent to polarise us as a country. It is oppressive, divisive, it is wrong, and we must challenge this. Whilst we seek more information in regards to the government mandating us to hold a binding referendum, sadly, it seems almost inevitable that this will be the only way we will be able to retain Māori wards in 2025 and beyond. Central government want a referendum because they are banking on voting numbers being low, given the general low turnout in local government elections, and they expect an even lower engagement from Māori. They want us to fail. They don't want Māori wards, hence their racially charged legislation. The vote today is easy, and I put it to you all, if we are required to have a referendum next year, we are going to have to organise the campaign of the century. We will need to be strategic, collaborative, work in partnership, and mobilise our people more than we ever have to get this across the line. Collectively, we will need to be active on the ground level, knock on doors, empower our amazing rangatahi, advocate in different clubs and organisation, educate our neighbours about why Māori wards are so critical, and be prepared to put in the hard yards. This will be our challenge. This will be our wero. So this is a call to action. Let's be part of making wrongs right. Let's be on the right side of history. We can make this happen. We will make this happen. Don't ever underestimate the power of the people and collectively what we can do when we stand together, we work together, and have a united purpose and kaupapa. And in the words of the late Kingi Tuheitia, the time is now for kotahitanga and unity. The people across the motu have spoken. We shall not be moved. Kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawanui, ngā mihi kia koutou, kia ora.
Councillor Dyer.
I'll have to follow that. Kia ora koutou. I want to acknowledge everyone that spoke today, but as an extra acknowledgement to the people that are here in support that haven't spoken, we feel you and we see you. Kia ora koutou. As you know, we've made this decision back in November last year, a democratic decision to establish a Māori ward in Te Awa Kairangi ki tai Lower Hutt. Now the government is forcing us to essentially revisit that decision, as though we're being treated like a naughty child. It's done something wrong and is being asked, are you sure you still want to do that? Let's be clear, we're not being asked to make this decision again today. That decision has already been made. And what we're being asked today is whether we still stand by that decision, whether we stand by the democratic process we followed last year when this council, representing our city, voted to move forward with Māori wards. I would also like to point out that at a time when the government is sending strong signals about cutting back on a laundry list of distractions and focusing on core activities, we need to ask what really is a waste of money. It's not the decision we made last year, but the unnecessary costs now being pushed onto our community in the form of an $80,000 referendum. Let's not forget $80,000 is no small sum, and as Linda Olsen said, that money could be far better spent on essential services in our community and maybe even filling a few potholes. I would like to encourage those who didn't support the decision back in November to think carefully about what today really is. This is an opportunity to respect the democratic process we all stand for. This isn't about relitigating the past, it's about affirming that as elected members, we trust the decision we have made on behalf of the people we represent. I urge you all to support this motion and show that we stand by the original decision and stand by our community today. Otherwise, we risk allowing unnecessary government overreach to undermine our council's authority. Let's not follow the wrong path like our neighbours up the valley. This is our chance to stand by our community, the democratic process, and be on the right side of history.
Councillor Stillinger, then Councillor Edwards.
Yes, it's a sense of deja vu. Council did make a democratically expressed decision here back in November, which was a strong one. I was the only abstention, as some have noted, and all other councillors voted in favour. So it is a pity that we really need to revisit that and repeat it. But here we are. We've had some recommendations added, and thank you, Councillor Mitchell, for those, and Mr Mayor. Councillors will know I have expressed reservations about binding referendum during recent discussions, and I still hold those, and that's because the majority is not always correct, in my view. And history has shown that on occasion. And particularly when decisions affect minorities, the views of those most affected needs to be taken into consideration and carry a greater weighting than those who aren't so invested. So I don't think it's a good thing that we have a likely binding referendum coming up at the next election. So I'm happy to support the recommendations that have been put forward in that regard. I have reconsidered my position when I abstained last time. It was the hardest decision I've made at this table. You know, it might have seen as a soft option. It wasn't a soft option for myself. I really had to do double the explanations because people afterwards were challenging me on both sides, and I really appeased none. But at the time, and it was a decision I made on the day, it was how I felt. I have pondered that again now, and I have thought about changing my mind and, well, not changing my mind, changing the vote on this occasion, because as I expressed at the beginning, I do feel it unfortunate that a democratically made decision at this table is having to be revisited. But I have decided to take the same approach, and I won't go through my dissertation that I was given some courtesy by the chair to express at some length last time. But in essence, my reason for abstaining is I do feel torn. And I feel torn between my own view that I don't necessarily think having a dedicated Maori ward will result in better Maori representation around this table. It may well do, and I'd be very happy to be proved wrong in that regard. But we don't know how the votes will go and how that change in our basis of election will affect the outcome of. We know we'll have a guaranteed Maori ward representative, and good for that, but it may have other impacts on who gets elected around the table. So I feel quite uncertain about it. And in saying so, I do just want to express briefly, I highly value the input of Māori at this table. It's essential, and I'm very grateful that we have a stronger voice here now than we've had at the past, not just at this table, but coming through from our offices and through various protocols. So I'm uncertain about that, and hence my hesitation. My reason for abstaining is because I cannot bring myself to vote against those who feel so passionately and express their views so strongly, and views that I respect and hold in very high regard. So that's the position, Mr. Mayor. So I just ask that you could take recommendation 4 separately, and I will abstain from that and will vote in favour of the other recommendations.
Councillor Edwards.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Could I acknowledge the eloquence and passion we've seen today from the speakers in the public gallery, especially from a rangatahi, some future councillors right there, hopefully standing in a Māori ward. I share the level of anger that's been expressed with our coalition government that, as Councillor Morgan says, talks about localism, talks about honouring te tiriti, and then pushes council into this invidious position. And the shame of it, I think, is if we do have this binding referendum next year, those who are feeling uncertain about Māori wards won't have had an opportunity of a triennium of being in operation to see there's nothing to be afraid of and plenty of advantages from having a te ao Māori perspective embedded in the council to help us all with our decisions. So I'll certainly be voting to affirm our decision to have a Māori ward.
So, Councillor Tupou, then Deputy Mayor Lewis.
E te koro matua, ke te mihi ki a koe mō tō mihi mai mahara, ki tātou kingi Māori, tihei te pōtatau te whiruwhiru te tuawhitu. Moi mai rā, ki te taumata o mainga taupiri. Arā, kei te mihi nui ki tō tātou kuini hou Māori, ngā waihono i te pō. Te ariki nui, te tuawaru, kei te mihi, i te kuini. Sir, where there is uncertainty, may I offer some certainty. Te tiriti o Waitangi is the cornerstone, Mr. Mayor, of our constitution, albeit unwritten as a collective of documents. Te tiriti was written 1840. And for those of us who attended Waitangi early this year, we saw the reconvening of the Crown and of our rangatira. We saw them again at the Koroneihana where Kingi Tuheitia called for kotahitanga. And we saw the Crown and our rangatira gather yet again at the forecourt of Tūranga Waiwai Marae this week, where some of us, like myself, Sue, have just returned today in time for the vote from the tangihana of Kingi Tuheitia. And so, Te Tiriti is still a living document today. And therefore, I'll be voting in accordance with our constitution, sir. Let us reflect upon the more eloquent kōrero from our rangatahi,
who echoed the principles, the first principles of Te Tiriti of partnership as affirmed by He Whakaputanga, the Declaration of Independence, and following that by Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And I see Auntie Linda with her flag, and I see the He Whakaputanga flag. And for those of us who can recall, it was actually John Key's government, alongside Te Pāti Māori, that supported these two flags, flying side by side. And John Key in 2009 at the time said it represented hope and unity. And so there's unity under Te Tiriti o Waitangi between the parallel, the two partners of tangata whenua and the Crown. Contrary to some views, it's not two races, it's two entities that brought this nation together. Let us, under participation, the principle of participation, future-proof Māori representation. I recall, Sarah, my short-lived time at Vic Uni, the American political scientist Leslie Lipson. In 1948, he wrote a book that I had to read, and in it he observed from afar our unique system of government here in Aotearoa, our arrangement he called the bicultural arrangement that allows for our multicultural nation to flourish. And certainly in my time with the Multicultural Council a few years ago attending their AGM of Aotearoa, they reaffirmed Te Tiriti. Sadly, I can recall the likes of Moana Jackson, who constantly reminded us of the Crown's guarantee under Article the 2nd to preserve tino rangatiratanga. Sir, I can recall speaking with representative of our Pacifica community, Dame Lua Manuwa Winnie Laban, who said on Māori and Pacifica representation, if we aren't sitting at the table, then we'll be on the menu. Sir, I think there's no room for divisive politics coming from the top. It's time they sit down with the iwi leaders and actually listen. Let's foster unity under Te Tiriti o Waitangi, our constitution, here in Te Awa Kairangi ki Tai, and show Te Awa Kairangi ki Uta how it's done. I agree with Councillor Mitchell. We are being coerced without consultation to revisit, as Councillor Stellinger rightly put it, a democratically made decision by us, the elected municipal authority. The people here today have spoken. Te Awa Kairangi ki Tai has spoken. Let us stand fast, let us stand firm to the values and the principles under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Kia ora tātou.
Councillor, Deputy Mayor Lewis and Councillor Parkin.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou katoa, and thank you so much for everybody for being here today. Mana whenua, tangata Tiriti, everybody that has spoken. It has been a powerful day, and to my fellow councillors for your words and the recommendations that have gone forward. Yeah, toi tu teriti. There's a high cost that we are all paying for this conversation today. The high cost that has been mentioned in dollars by lots of our government saying that we've got to cut the cloth, you know, get back to basics. It's costing us a lot. But the biggest cost has not been mentioned and is the cost that is on Māori. The largest cost. We've continued to pay the crippling interest on the price that wasn't included in that treaty document. The treaty document was to work together. The treaty document didn't even get as far as forming a government, forming it together. And this decision that we're making today, well, it's one step. It's the third time we've done it, as you've all heard. It is to reaffirm our decision to have a Māori ward, so we can get down to what the treaty said. It's doing it together, sitting at this table, working together as a culture. So I don't think it's all lost. I've seen the future today. I've heard it today. And I don't want to continue to pay the cost of lost opportunity, the cost of lost genuine partnership, the cost of embracing a future together, that we can work together. So I believe our future is bright. And my little finishing statement is, Māori is our past and our present. Māori is our future. And from yesterday at Tūranga Waiwai and again today, I say our future for Māori is looking bright. And I'm good. Thank you.
Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora. He aha te mea nui o te ao. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is the most important thing in the world? It is people, it is people, it is people. And thank you to the people who have come and spoken today. I'm Pākehā, I'm British. I emigrated when I was 8, and my te tiriti journey started when I was at school, and it continued through Play Centre and through council and through my Teachers College education. And it continues today. It has continued through the conversations that I've had with people, both for and against Māori wards. But I can tell you one thing from my journey within Play Centre and my continued journey within council, having a Māori voice around the table is the best thing that we can have. It means that we actually listen to people, to the awa, to the land. It means we make better decisions. It is not something we need to be afraid of. And for those of you if we have to do this referendum and when we get round to voting for the referenda, if you're partaking in that, do not be afraid. Having a Māori voice around the table is good for Pākehā. It is good for New Zealand. Kia ora.
Kia ora, and thank you everyone for your words. Councillor Mitchell, you did kick us off, but okay, go for it. Second bite.
I think hopefully technically I get a right of reply and some brief closing comments, because I did mention earlier that there's been a lot of rich kōrero around the motu recently, and I've been listening really hard to a lot of it. And I did come with a long list of notes, which you'll be pleased to hear I won't delve into today, because a lot of them were for voices I've heard who haven't come into the room today to engage with us and hear from us, so I won't spend a lot of oxygen on them. Just to reflect briefly on something I have heard in recent months, and this may assure people who aren't sure of the value that Māori ward may bring to our table, or as has been noted, we won't have a Māori ward councillor before we go to referendum to decide whether to keep one. It's a very perverse situation. But one thing I've heard time and time again in recent months is mayors and councillors from around the motu speak of the great value that Māori ward councillors have brought to their council tables, councils who have them already, including a number who were initially opposed to the creation of Māori wards in their rohi, but have changed their minds now to support Māori wards based on having Māori ward councillors at their table. That's something for us all to consider. It's not an experience we have here, but as we go into that referendum this year. And to note, of course, we do have good Māori representation around this table today, but that's at the whim of the voters. And the only way to assure that Māori voice at this table is through the creation of a Māori ward. I would just like to join others in acknowledging the passing of Kingi Tuheitia and Te Whakawahinga, the raising up of Kuini Ngāwai Hono i Te Pō. The kingitanga is a bit like a Māori ward in that it's a special representative position for Māori. It's chosen by Māori, not all Māori, but as a representative of Māori. And in the way that we hope a Māori ward will do in our council, the kingitanga provides a strong, dedicated voice for Māori. And if we've listened to that voice in recent years, we would have heard it preach nothing but kotahitanga. For te iwi Māori and all people of Aotearoa, we have nothing to fear from a strong Māori voice at this table. My final message is to our mana whenua and te iwi Māori katoa. And this is something, again, I've heard a lot recently, including from the Pai at Koroneihana recently. Governments and councils will come and go, but tangata whenua will always be here on this whenua, as you have been for centuries until now. This government, this current government, may change legislation and they may erase words from legislation. They've told us they plan to remove the 4 well-beings from the Local Government Act. But please know that your well-being, your cultural well-being, Your hauora is important to this council, and it is safe in our hearts where the three-headed taniwha can't reach it. Ngā mihi aroha kia koutou.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Just to say a few words before we put it to the vote. The 21st of November last year was, I would say, one of the proudest moments of my time as koromātua of Te Awa Karangi Kitai, with the Mayor of Lower Hutt. And that was when we voted to introduce a Māori ward. And I was proud because of the voices that came to this room that spoke so elegantly, as has been done again today. And I was so proud of this council in your strength, in your absolute courage and your wisdom to support that, pretty much unanimously. And I stand here today, or sit here today, feeling a bit frustrated with the position we've been put in, and I think all of you would agree with that. But I also feel that great sense of pride once again because of our community that has shown up and has spoken. And I had a number of things I wanted to say, but I just thought, wow, actually, as we got into about the third speaker, I started writing down what you were saying because it summed it up so well. So I want to go through a few highlights for me that sum things up. Muriel, you spoke about leadership with aroha, and for me, that is something that is clearly missing in our nation right now. But again, I am proud that there is so much aroha around this table and in our community and showing up today to give that aroha. And that is not just for supporting a Māori ward, that is aroha for those who are still on their journey. They may be in a different space, they're still on their journey, and all I have seen from so many is aroha for them as well. The rights of the minority should not be up to the majority. Absolutely. What's good for Māori is good for everyone. We stand here as tangata treaty to support the voices in this room. The principles of democracy aren't enough to ensure minority voices. I'm hoping that the council is on the correct side of history, and I'm here for my daughter to say that. We have a Māori queen whose first language is Māori. Ko Hangareo and Wainuiomata was born there. We are pretty special here in Te Awa Karangi Kitai. What's the message, and there are a couple of questions, what's the message you want to send to those young women from Sacred Heart College, but also speaking on behalf of their journey at Wainuiomata Intermediate that stood here and spoke to us? What's the message this table wants to leave for them? I think all of you have made that message pretty clear, and I'm incredibly proud of all of you. Now, there was one speaker, Hakapa. Can I just say, you were incredible. And you did say one thing that I do want to correct, though. You said, I want to stand here for the voices that aren't important. Can I just say, your voice is so important. And those voices that you represent, who don't feel comfortable coming into a space like this, is so, so important. So thank you so much for your courage today. As we know, Māori ward is not the only thing this council can do to honour Te Tiriti. We are already working in partnership with iwi, and I'm very thankful for your words, Vicky, at the start of this kōrero. And that will continue regardless. That will continue with tangata whenua, that will continue with mana whenua. We will continue to go from strength to strength here in Te Awa Karangi Kitai because we have some pretty incredible foundations based around partnership and respect about moving all of our people forward. I'm incredibly proud of Councillors Brown, Morgan and Mitchell who fronted up to the Select Committee when this bill was heard. And I think their quotes were used in the House many times because of how powerful their message was. It's just unfortunate that it landed on deaf ears. And over 50 mayors and chairs signed a letter saying to treat Māori wards the same as all other wards. That is such a strong message from local government leaders from right across Aotearoa New Zealand. And I hope that everyone in this room, I hope that everyone who is listening and engaged in this debate can take heart that so many within local government hear you, we stand alongside you, and regardless of the government of the day that comes and goes, we will keep moving forward. Finally, I just want to acknowledge also, as Councillor Brown did, the emails that we get before this meeting. Strangely, I haven't heard anything from those emails in this meeting. But I renamed my inbox. I actually got a special inbox for Hobson's Pledge, and I renamed it The Journey. And as I referenced before, you know, I don't get angry when I receive those emails. They are a bit annoying. They come in frequently. But I just reflect on, you know, these are people who are on their journey. Maybe far, far away from where others are and where maybe we are in this room. They're on their journey, and I'm confident that we as a country, as long as we can continue to lead at the local level, the grassroots level, will continue to move forward and bring everyone on that journey for the benefit of our country. So on that note, I will now put it to the vote, and I know there will be a call for division. And Councillor Briggs has messaged me and said, I cannot believe you guys took so long because I'm already now on the plane and can't vote. So Councillor Briggs, for you, we will note that if you were here, you would have voted in favour of the recommendations. So we have the call for a division. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? Yep. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I thought you agreed to take...
Sorry, yes, we can take it separately. Yes, apologies. So all those in favour of the...
Everything apart from 4.
All recommendations apart from 4, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. All those in favour of the balance of, of recommendation 4, which is to reaffirm the establishment of a Māori ward. Raise your hand. Okay, that is carried. All those against? And 1 abstention. Okay, that's done. Thank you very much.